Respect. That's the name of a video Markiplier put up on his channel yesterday. One that he posted just a few hours after a video titled Nothing But Dicks. Which I point out, not just because this is kind of funny, but because the video kind of hit me in a weird place and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Markiplier was kind of mad in that video. Mad enough that in the thumbnail they literally put a halo of white hot glow behind him, so you know it's serious. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, because I want to say from the outset that I do understand where he's coming from. He put on his dad voice and gave a lecture about how culturally we aren't as respectful as we probably should be anymore. I like the dad voice. As a recent dad, I've developed my own, and as much as I like to joke about the whole, "Hey you punk kids, get off my lawn and on the point," you know, the yelling dad times, and as funny as that is, the real dad voice is the one where we talk very calmly and very intimately, explain why something that happened was wrong, how you can fix it. In this instance, Mark was coming out in defense of Felix Kjellberg, best known to the internet as PewDiePie, who, if you haven't been following the news, has been removed from Disney or Maker Studios for making a joke that went over the line. Felix has apologized for this, and seemingly he was oblivious to whether the joke would actually occur, and more importantly, how negatively it would be perceived. And here's where I start to run into the problem that I have with this whole scenario. PewDiePie's greatest defense in this whole scenario is seemingly ignorance. Obliviousness. It's an innocence by a route of naivete. Either he didn't know that the people in India that he hired to write and hold up a sign reading "Death to all Jews" would actually occur, which I don't really believe for a second. He paid these guys, they don't care. And if he didn't watch the video before reacting to it, he certainly had time to editorialize before posting it on YouTube. It's not like it was a surprise that it happened. He wasn't doing this wasn't some live accident. But rather, he intentionally went over that line, and I think he just didn't realize how bad the repercussions would be, how bad they even could be. Certainly he didn't think the whole channel was going to get axed over it. The point is, he wasn't really doing anything that out of the ordinary for the type of content that happens so often on YouTube. He was doing what so many people always do. He was being kind of an edgelord. So, I mean, if this joke had been an exception, like a rare crossing of the line, I think I'd be a lot more sympathetic to the whole situation. And I mean, even with that, I still feel pretty bad for how negatively this has affected him. If not financially, certainly emotionally. He's taking this very seriously. He seems genuinely broken up about it, as do a lot of his direct peers and his coworkers. This kind of a big deal that this happened. But PewDiePie made this bed. He made a disrespectful bed, and now he's sleeping in his own disrespectful bed, a bed that does not respect him. That's a confusing visual image, but the point is, respect is a two-way street. And if you're going to make a video discussing the basics of respect, in a respectful society, then I think we need more than just an outward lecture about society as a whole, and a lot more introspection, at least a little, particularly for PewDiePie, but basically for everyone who makes any kind of content on YouTube. Just in general, across the board, PewDiePie says a lot of casually kind of awful things. I'm not referring necessarily to the sign that got him in trouble or the implied inward moment. Or even any single moment from his library. The Wall Street Journal posted a list. They went through his archives and they found a list of a lot of seemingly anti-Semitic comments from various videos, some of which he apologized for, and a lot of which he claimed were taken out of context. But I think it's that particular excuse that really troubles me. From the casual ways PewDiePie calls everyone and everything a bitch, to the way his fans are all bros. Hey bros, bro fist, what's up? There's this kind of constant, systemic, self-perpetuating, accidental misogyny and racism just under the surface. It's never really overt, but it likes to, and when it does come out, it likes to masquerade as an ironic misogyny and racism. Our media, and especially lots of us on YouTube, really want to be able to have our cake and eat it too. We want to be able to push the envelope of content, of what's acceptable, and pretend that we aren't doing that at all at the same time. To pretend we're taking the high road, that we're being good, great citizens, while also making really casually offensive jokes. And we're almost joking about the fact that we're joking. We're pushing the boundary, but it's okay because everyone knows we're just kidding, right? That's the subtext of we can say whatever we want as long as we're kidding about it. Look, most of us intellectually know that racism is wrong. We know that sexism is wrong, that hate of any kind is completely wrong, and yet we've had that core thought pounded into us so hard, so repeatedly, that it's almost become this kind of distant caricature. We've imagined this monster of a hateful, murderish Nazi and imagined ourselves to be the exact opposite of that, to the point where referencing Nazis in and of themselves has become a joke. It's a punchline. Being sexist or racist has become a joke. We're so far removed from that as a thing that it becomes very easy to just casually repeat and repost memes and jokes that are shocking and hilarious specifically because everyone knows we're saying them with a nod and a wink that implies, hey kids, don't actually do this, but it sure is funny to cross that line, eh? It sure is nice to just tell that joke and push that boundary. But then it happens again. And again, and again, until it just becomes our language. The jokes become real. And suddenly we have this environment where it's okay to make jokes about people because of their race and their creed, where simply telling people that they should be nice to each other suddenly becomes political correctness, a term used only by people who dislike being told not to make fun of others, by the way, to where it's become almost socially acceptable to rail against social justice warriors as though looking for any kind of social justice is something controversial to be derided. This is the environment that spawned Gamergate, that leads to Twitter campaigns to dox or harass people they disagree with because they think it's funny to do that to someone they don't even know. This is the environment that led to the alt-right. If you joke long enough about topics that align themselves with racists, with sexists, with literal actual Nazis, no matter how accidentally you may be doing it, you create an environment that makes it easier for real, actual people who agree with those types of comments to flourish. It doesn't matter how progressive you personally feel you are, or how many winks or grins are behind your comments, when you make jokes at someone's expense, you're influencing others to do the same, and they may forget about the part where you were winking and grinning and just be terrible. Mark spent a long time talking about taking the high road, about taking the more difficult, lonely road. And along these lines, I could not possibly agree more. It is exceptionally difficult, superhuman almost, to be able to vehemently disagree with someone on a core level and still be cordial and respectful of them as a human being. But I think it's even harder to be in this kind of industry where pushing the envelope, where shocking people is the primary entertainment that they want, the thing they seek out implicitly. It's shock and awe entertainment. It's exactly the sort of thing that put a lot of major YouTube stars in the positions that they are in. So of course there are way, way worse offenders than PewDiePie out there at this thing, but he has the greatest influence, and his influence in tone and personality reaches far and wide. He's helped shape an entire industry, and in many ways an entire generation of kids who have already partially grown up watching, if not him directly, certainly a lot of other people who have been influenced by him. And I think that's the word that gets thrown around a lot, is influencers. It's a marketing term that a lot of people use to describe YouTubers. YouTubers are influencers, possibly the biggest influence and role model our younger generation has before them right now. Usually it means something as simple as, please use our product, or please play our game. It will influence your fans to do the same. But it carries so much weight that I think the entire YouTube community needs to just step back for a minute and think about and really get introspective about their influence. When you're casually misogynistic, when you accidentally let out a joke that demeans someone, even slightly, even ironically as a joke, you push your viewer's Overton window away from respect and towards disrespect. You can make all the grandstanding speeches you like, and honestly, I applaud a lot of the things that are being said in these kinds of speeches, and for what it's worth, I really like, in general, I think Mark's content is great, and I think he sets a really great example the vast majority of the time. Since I started writing this video this morning, the newest things he's posted on his channel are a charity live stream benefiting St. Jude's. He's a really good dude, alright? I'm not even really trying to come down on Markiplier, or even Felix. I mean, I'm sure Felix is a really great dude who's kind of getting caught in kind of just sort of a questionable sense of humor. But if we're going to wax poetic and passionately about these sort of subjects, we have to own our share of the responsibility for why not just people in general, but why our particularly audiences might be respectful or disrespectful. Respect is dying the death of 1,000 paper cuts. It's not just about these individual, singled out, cherry-picked, what are the most offensive moments. It's about the casual offenses that add up over time. It's a gradual process that you really have to fight against. And we just need to evaluate ourselves and see to what degree, perhaps even utterly accidentally, we may be adding to the deluge. I take that influence really seriously, and I know I only have a fraction of the viewer base of any of the people under scrutiny here. I have, at this moment, less than 4,000 subscribers, and I'm sitting here lecturing people with millions, literally millions of reach, and yet still it weighs just as heavily on my mind. Even if you have a channel with 0 subscribers, or you're just watching content, if you're making it at all, or just discussing things locally with your friends, your choice of language affects how you interact with everybody around you, how the people in your community are treated, and how they feel from day to day, from moment to moment. We cannot afford to be oblivious. We cannot afford to be accidental. We cannot afford to marginalize women by overly sexualizing or demeaning them, or demean any race by joking about racial slurs, and especially not joking about their literal right to live, no matter the context. It doesn't matter how tongue-in-cheek or ironic we think we're being about it. Apologies alone are not enough. Yes, apologize, but you have to look within, find out what part of you made you think that would be a good thing to do in the first place, and most importantly, make amends to make sure that nothing like that ever happens in the future, so you can move forward and we as a society can move on. Now, as far as attacking PewDiePie, should anyone attack PewDiePie or Markiplier or me? Please no. You shouldn't attack anybody, no matter what. Of course not. Even if you disagree with someone, especially if you don't agree with someone. Not a chance. Even someone being accidentally, even someone being intentionally disrespectful, still deserves a level of respectful discourse. But if you've stepped over that line and you want to make sure that you earn that extra respect, that it goes both ways, showing it in kind, especially for those on the huge platform, is deeply needed and woefully absent first step in this process. Don't just yell at your viewers because you think they're being rude. We have to teach them. Teach them by being the change you want them to be. We live in a contentious time with a lot of divisive rhetoric. And it's so important to speak up and make some kind of conscious effort not to accidentally contribute to the problems that we are trying to fix.